And we're live. Welcome back. This is episode, I believe it's 44, with Mark Rosenberg,
Hello.
aka Deadliest Lift. He has a fantastic shirt on, the Powered by Peanut Butter one. It arrived just in time.
Look at that.
I was like, it's very, very specific for a friend of the show, Atlas Power Shrugged. Yeah. And two, important housekeeping notes. Darren is very sick right now. So we hope he's doing okay. And Frank Donahue, who does our behind the scenes, volunteered to step up because, yeah, he's wanted to be on camera. So what better time than to be with one of our most popular guests of all
Right into the
time?
fire.
It's true. I was like,
It's just easy mode. They're gonna come watch anyways.
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah. So it's nice. I was like, yeah, how have you been doing?
Oh, me? Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's been
Both of you.
when was
Jeepers.
the double episode? That was back in
I need to pull it up real quick.
April? No.
That sounds correct. It's been a
No,
while.
no, before April. I think it was before I dislocated my shoulder.
Oh yeah.
So it might have been even earlier.
Deadliest Lift. Yeah. It's been a while. It's been a good time. 7 months ago.
Oh,
Actually, wait, 6 months ago. Your first appearance was 7 months ago.
Gotcha.
6 months ago.
so it must have
You
been. I
guys are
think it was
both on
beginning of
here.
March. That sound right?
Yeah.
So then, just before I dislocated my shoulder.
Yeah. I was like, I was just about to say your recovery process has
Mhm.
gone well.
Yeah.
March 2nd is when you came on
Gotcha.
for the double episode. And your audio is perfect this time, so that's
Nice.
great. I was like, and your lighting, everything's improved overall. So I'm like,
Progressive
Leveling up.
overload.
you're coming back. But yeah, so for people who aren't aware, Mark did dislocate his shoulder doing was it a Hatfield squat with
Hatfield
1,000?
squat with 965 pounds.
Okay, so not
One of the
quite
doctors rounded up for the medical report. The other doctor was honest. So
the
who
same.
knows what the real weight was? The
It's
records
true.
are unclear.
You should have said it was 500 kilos or 505, which is
Five-
At
Oh,
at a certain point, heavyweights are just heavyweights to most people that don't lift a lot. Like the
it's
difference
true.
is lost on them.
Yeah,
Anything over 500 is just a blur.
Yeah, it's just heavy.
Yeah.
like it's glued to the floor for most people, so there's like no scale for any of that. But yeah, your recovery went well. You did a strongman competition like
Yep, at the beginning
Few
of
weeks
July.
after?
So
Yeah.
a few months. It would have
a few
been
months. Okay,
end of March, so April, May, June, 3 months almost exactly after I dislocated my shoulder. I did Monsters in Monona 2023, which is small local show, but still. And I got first in the men's heavyweight, super heavyweight open because merge classes for a small show. And I had to skip the pressing event because 100% just dislocated shoulder, not because I'm a terrible presser. It's totally the injury. So starting out with 0 points on a 13-man class, I managed to squeak up to first by taking first in every other event. And it was still only good enough to get me half a point ahead of second place, who got second place by a 5-second penalty technicality for sliding the yoke over the line. So very close all the way down to the end, and really hammers in how much you cannot zero anything in strongman. And I have to explain that to like everyone I tell this story to who's not familiar with strongman. Like the way the points work, zeroing very bad. With 13 people, extra super really bad.
yeah, no, that's real bad, especially with that. So overall, a very astounding performance to just see you because I didn't know with the press. I was like, is he just not want to do it because or there's an injury?
No, there was no way I could have done that press. I mean,
Oh yeah.
granted, I zeroed the same event last year, so who knows if I would have gotten it without being injured. I like to think this year I've gotten at least a log, maybe one of the axles, but hopefully I can redeem myself in a few months. I am playing one more show, and that's got a circus dumbbell for the press, so I don't need the right arm. I can just use my weaker left arm and hopefully get up to at least one rep there.
Nice. I was like, Frank's big on the circus dumbbell and everything. I've always just
Yeah, but
been
you can
terrible.
tell me what I'm doing wrong because I am not good at circus dumbbell.
Yeah, I'm not good at chaining those movements together. It's like a combo thing where it's like trying to do both legs and arms. I'm like just somehow losing all the power in between those. So
Yeah,
it's almost always a straight.
No one
press.
knows why I'm so bad at pressing. Everyone says, you can press more in there. I'm like, no, I can't. I don't know what the disconnect is. I was at character creation. I had so many points, and I put them all in deadlift, and I had nothing left for press. That's the best explanation I got.
You
No,
compete often, Mark? Do you compete often?
No, I've competed twice now. I competed once at Monsters Manila last year, then this year. Just goes local, and I guess winning and more fun. I have kind of gotten a bit of a taste for a competition, and I was only going to do the one show this year, but someone DM'd me saying they were doing a charity competition about an hour away. And I said, if you don't want to do the whole event, will you come in and at least do the deadlift like as an exhibition or something? I'm like, well, if I'm going to drive there, I'll just do the whole competition. So now I've got a second one on the schedule for 2023.
Nice.
It's always handy. I was like, the pressing, overhead pressing in general is just like not a fan. I'm not a fan of like bench press, like incline bench for some reason I don't mind, but like pressing, it's just not nearly as fun as deadlifts. Like deadlifts
it's not as fun, and I'm not good at it, which is the number one way to make something not fun.
It's true. It takes so much more thought than like just bend down and pick up.
Just pick up,
just pick it up, put it back down. Whereas like the cues, people are like, oh, just like bend your legs and then just put all that energy and just throw it overhead.
Yeah.
I'm like,
with pressing, I really need to work on really putting everything into the push part of it, because I don't have very strong pushes, because part of me is like, if I just fucking fling this up, it's going to land on my head. So I'm very hesitant. So I got to practice early trying to jump or something and see what happens. And I've got 2 months left to try and figure it out. Fingers crossed I can get one rep.
What's the weight on it?
Only 165, so it's not a heavy circus dumbbell, but it's heavy for me because I'm very bad at pressing.
And with your left hand.
Yep, and with the left hand.
With the left hand.
I'm like, that's always impressive. I was like, the coordination it takes just to be able to do that. But I feel like you have the lower body strength enough and the grip that you could almost just snatch it if you like.
It is.
Right?
I think that's 20 pounds below my current 1 rep max. 1 arm barbell snatch, which is not really something I practice a lot. It's just something I do occasionally for fun. But I feel like snatching a circus dumbbell is not the same as a barbell. It's not going to work so good.
That's true. Your grip has to be real good. Otherwise, you're just flinging it in.
Yeah, I'm going to hit myself in the face if I try that one.
Oh, yeah. That 100%. Which, briefly, today you did the craziest lift I've ever seen you do, possibly the bridle deadlift. So I wanted to show that so the people could understand just exactly
what I
am. Yeah, what I was like, this is the best introduction to like, because it takes a lot to like really surprise me of like the activities you do, but this one was like jaw dropping. So for everyone listening at home, he took a rope, put it between his teeth, wrapped it behind his head, and then looped it under the barbell and is lifting it up with his hands.
Going dark there?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the pressure like on that?
Not fun. I mean, at a certain point, that's when the list, like I planned that one because I thought it would be a relatively low weight version, because I did heavy deadlifts yesterday. I'm like, I need to rest a little bit today on my goofy day so I have energy for all my real training days. And the weights just kept going up. So I'm not very good at predicting where some of these will go, because it feels like there should be a lot of pressure. It's like pulling back into your mouth and like crushing your teeth. And it is, but also a decent amount of it does get picked up by the weights of your back, just kind of supporting the rope a little bit. Like if it was a dead hang with my teeth, it wouldn't be so heavy, but I don't know. It's like if it goes, I just keep trying. So I'm like, the next one does not seem smart. Which usually that's a good cutoff, except for, apparently the Hatfield squat work. At 900, I was feeling like, maybe one more.
That's the crazy part, because on Instagram you only showed doing like 2 plates, 3 plates, and then you sent me a clip of 4 plates. And how many plates? What was the weight that you got?
That was 8 plates. That was 765.
Oh, man. So you've done 8 plates with a ton of different deadlifts.
Yeah, I've done 8 plates with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind? What was the setup for that lift right there?
To think of the lift or going into that specific rep?
That one specifically.
That specific rep. I mean, I just done 7 at a certain point. It's like, well, if I can do 7, I can do 8.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure I had a very clean lockout, because the video with the 7, I was a little bit lopsided, so it was a shaky lockout. I'm like, I can't post a crappy lockout. Everyone will be like, you didn't lock it out. Ignoring the fact I have 700 pounds pulling into the back of my throat.
With your jaw, yeah.
Yeah, with my jaw.
That's true. Standards.
Because some people are very impressed by some things. Other people are like, I don't see the point. Like you've cut 4 inches of range of motion. It's basically a trap bar pull or a rack pull. I'm like, that's not really the point here. That's not what I'm going for.
You're gonna hurt yourself, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've given up on that. Maybe because I already have hurt myself, or that I haven't hurt myself enough. I don't know which way.
Boom.
That's true.
Oh,
Because
that's
a lot
all
of people, yeah. It's like the nice thing is, so I hurt my knee a few weeks back and everything, and everyone's always warned me I would hurt my back, and I'm like, no, my back is fine. Like, it's one of those things that like people don't realize. Like, it's interesting. I wish I had saved it. There's this amazing reel someone did that was like why is spinal flexion in a deadlift so dangerous, but spinal flexion in these movements isn't? And it showed
I saw that.
wrestling, football, like all these things where people are under intense load, and it's just dynamically, you're like, the spine's meant to move. Like,
Yeah,
the body's
spine
meant to,
is
like,
articulated for a reason. Like it wouldn't have articulation in the joints it wasn't supposed to.
yeah.
And
So
especially upper back, like that's naturally rounded. Like if I keep telling people, if you're trying to force a straight spine or a super straight back for deadlifts, you're probably actually hurting yourself more. Because I mean that's just not a natural position. It's not a strong position. You're gonna be straining muscles just trying to hold that perfect posture that is not effective, and in some cases not even really safe.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get why we give this general advice about a neutral spine for beginners, because there is a reason for it, but there's a lot of nuance there that just gets completely ignored by 95% of the material on backs and deadlifts and loads and whatnot. And it doesn't help that it gets parroted over and over and over again in the infinite morass of the online phytosphere.
Yeah, because people are very much this like kind of like black and white worldview. Like, literally, most of us were introduced to like fitness Instagram for the longest time was literally just Jeff Cavalier telling you what was going to ruin your gains. Bad sleep's ruining your gains. Not doing this movement will ruin your gains. Doing trap bar might ruin your gains.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it is they hear the spine flexing bad, and then everyone likes to have something to contribute. I know I do. I try and hold back most of the time on things I don't know about, but everyone wants to say things that they think are true and like contribute to the conversation and feel smart. So when you see one video like spine bending deadlift bad, you're like, that's a fact I can now use. And then you see a video of someone deadlift and you're like, oh, I get to use my fact. And they get to, leave their comment. That doesn't help anyone. So I get why they do it, but just think for 5 minutes before you talk. It really helps a lot. Or type in this case.
Yeah, because essentially most of like people's idea of like that lifting is like corporate HR stuff. That's like, don't lift more than 50 pounds. They show someone with like, the OSHA manual where you're like arching your back essentially, which is actually not a great loaded position and stuff. Like, so it's one of those things that's always fun. It's nice to see most people have like evolved on your comments to just like complain about range of motion rather than like injury. Like, that's the best.
You have to find the reels that are bigger, because there's this thing I can tell by like the quality of comments when a reel has gotten to the point where it's kind of gotten outside our little corner of Instagram and has made it to the greater general population, because that's when the comments really start to go downhill. So I'm like I don't have to check the view count. If I see certain comments start popping, I'm like, okay, this is gone. This one's got a lot more views now. It's made it to the regular people.
Yeah, because you do see that. One of our friends on the show, Dan Benson, who's the U90 Chaos Classic champion, he just recently hit 401.55 kilos. And like, it's like 2.2 million views now. But you have a ton of people who they're like, that could hurt your back. Like, that's dangerous. And he's in a suit. He's a professional and like clearly did it.
Yeah, there's no way to avoid that sentiment. Sometimes I think, oh, maybe if I put a normal deadlift occasionally, which I sometimes do, that won't happen. But nope, regardless of how I do a perfectly normal conventional deadlift, which even I don't think is super backgroundy, people will still complain. Like, I've taken videos where you can see, and like, this is kind of weird thing. People seem to think I have this like great spinal mobility, and like especially in the lower back, like they think, oh, I have a really strong, perfectly. My lower back I cannot bend it. It is rock solid, which is good. It allows for a lot of force production, but I cannot do a lot of these things that people think I can do. Like, if I were to take videos from an angle, you'd see that my lower back is basically locked. Like, those bottom 5 vertebrae are solid. That they are not ever bending from that configuration, which is what you want for heavy loads. But like, I can't do, for instance, say like a stiff leg searcher kind of Jefferson curl thing, because I don't have that mobility, which I don't really need. I don't really want it. I think having that bottom spine locked in is probably ultimately better than having that mobility. I'm not 100% sure of that opinion. It's just kind of my gut feeling, but like, I don't know, that's kind of a tangent, but I feel like people have these wildly varied opinions of what they think I can and cannot do. A lot of people seem to vastly overestimate my capabilities to the point where I'm like, no, if I went to World's Strongest Man, I'd get shit stomped. Like, I will not win World's Strongest Man. Why do you seem to think I can?
People
like, you've got a bad read here. I'm not that strong.
Yeah, because it is like, for one, the lower back thing. I know that feeling exactly, because you'll see people do like RDLs and they'll be like, arch your back for the RDL, and they can get so low of like Atlas just recently. Like,
he's been
touch the ground with a flat back. Like his hips, like, I literally could not do that to save my life. Like somehow I did tear my meniscus doing a Zercher, but my back doesn't feel it.
Like regular Zercher is about the depth of my mobility. Like I have to pull myself into that.
That's true.
I'm very strong in that position, but that's about as deep as I can get. That's the extent of my flexibility.
Yeah, because that's at least for me, of like, even until it gets up to like 315 on a Zercher, like trying to get under it, like my left arm, which I start with, will like lift the plates like like several inches off the ground. Like it has to like
that's why you start heavier
pull you down. Yeah, it's true. I was like, I'll get back into it soon and everything, because it is like, it's a tangent, but I think people tend to have this like core idea is like, you can't have any sort of flexion, because I'll see people all the time, they'll just like bail on a lift if they feel like any sort of tightness, and it's like, if someone was like, hey, flex your abs as hard as you can so they can like punch you or something, there's no way you would arch your back, because that's not a strong core position. Like slightly like
a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I try and teach people any kind of like flow. It's like how do you brace yourself? Like, how do you deadlift that much? It's like, what should my back look like? I mean, it shouldn't look like anything. You just make your torso whatever position makes it feel as strong and tight as possible. Just do that. Like, it's your body knows what it wants to do to move a load and re-brace. You don't have to fight that. You can lean into that. If it wants to arch upper back a lot, great. If it wants to stay a little bit straighter, great. Just listen to it. It's gonna try and protect itself. Stop fighting it.
Yeah. You'll find out something and everything, but I think people are convinced there's like all those like wheelchair comments. They're like, oh, you're not going to have any mobility at all. And it's like,
I like how they've graduated to that, telling me I'm going to literally kill myself. It's like, I mean, you take that risk every time you get in a car. I'm a little more afraid driving down the freeway than with most of the lifts. Like, I'm very confident I'm not going to die. Could it possibly happen? I guess.
Yeah, it's because like, that one video, that the bodybuilder, the guy who died squatting 455, that video is horrific, by the way. If you guys look it up, it is on YouTube. And
not great.
I will not show it because it is appalling to just like watch a spotter just like kind of force the bar forward and it just rolls.
Yeah, but I mean, like I've had to like address that a few times. It's like there's a big difference between that and what I'm doing. For one, his position is not ideal. He's basically sitting and he has to like be bent forward, and there is no possibility for his torso to move to adjust to the angle. His neck has to take the whole brunt, and there's no stopping momentum in that bar rolling. Two, he's not expecting it. He goes down like that's not braced. He's not prepared, and like just like loose neck, and that's a big difference than me in like a squat position where I can lean forward and brace myself better, and I'm prepared for it, and I'm actually bracing everything to support my neck. Like there's a world of difference. It's like picking up something for something it dropped on you, and
that's true.
The nuance seems to be lost on a lot of people. Because like, I comment all the times, like, how can you do this? Like 5 days after, I forget his name, broke his neck squatting. I'm like, very easily. I mean, it's unfortunate it happened to him, but that's not like that's a weird event. That's a reason that was so shocking, because that doesn't happen often. I mean, people bail squats over their front all the time. I used to do all the time when I front bar on. I mean, straight bar squatted. Like that was how I bail all my squats, because I was so far lean forward that if I have to ditch it, it's just going off the front. And it's not a big deal.
Like force you're not prepared for is
always not comfortable. That little bump on your back of your head might take a little bruise, but that's about the worst of it.
Oh yeah, because it's one example of people not understanding like unexpected force was with Kiriakos Grizzly on Instagram when I think Pana, one of the professional powerlifters, went and trained with him and misracked like 3 red plates or something. So it's like 370 pounds or something. And he misses it, goes over the J hook, and like Grizzly catches it, but it looks like it's exertion. People there are like, he lifts way more than that. Why'd that look heavy to him?
Yeah,
I'm like,
being shocked by the way it's a lot different than being prepared for it. Plus, momentum. It's physics.
Yeah. Catching 300 pounds is very different than bracing and like
a tangent. I don't know why anyone uses those like squat stand style things. You've seen a lot in Ollie, but like the fact you can go over the back and it's fairly easy, especially for something like a bench. Like I don't know how people use those. Like use a rack if you don't have them, at least squat stands that have a full upright behind them. Like even combo racks, they give me a little bit heebie-jeebies because you can technically go over those. I'm like, I want to be able to just drop my squat into the rack and not have any concerns.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's weird that's why I draw the line compared to all the other stuff like that.
Because actually, Frank did have a question about where you draw the line and everything.
Okay. So I do have a question. It is from Jeff Coe in North Carolina. He trains at a Mountain Barbell. Right. The question is, how far are you willing to go, Mark? AKA, are there any lifts he sees as off limits or anything he will not try again?
I mean, specifically speaking, there's plenty of things that I just can't do well. I'm not like afraid of the danger, but there's plenty of lifts I just don't have the mobility or the technical skill to do with an appreciable amount of weight. And like, I can't snatch very well, like two-hand snatch. Like I can just ugliest muscle clean snatch 200, but I'm not gonna like ever. I don't have the ability to do a good snatch. There's a lot of similar. What's some good examples? Piper squats. I don't know how you're supposed to do those to depth. I mean, maybe I'm missing some technical skill. I think it's a proportion thing. That might just be me moping in my inability to do them properly. But I mean, there are lifts that I'm just not really equipped to do to a degree that I'd want to like test them and show them. Like, I mean, anyone can do a lift with an empty barbell. That's unimpressive. It's boring. It's kind of pointless.
Right.
So there are lifts I won't do because I don't think I can do them well enough that's worth doing. There's not many lifts I'm like, that's just too dangerous. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to be really absurd, like I guess I wouldn't like drop a barbell on my head. But I mean, at a certain point, like there's a clear line of like this is beyond like there is no, this is just dumb. Yeah,
well, I think for the everyday
part,
this lift is probably like, what is this guy doing? Like,
yeah, clearly my line is a little far, but like I mean, there's not many things that are even remotely reasonable I consider too dangerous because I can start low, I can work up, and I can find the breaking point where okay, doing this anymore is not going to happen. It's not going to work out well. I mean, there are some lifts that do make me a little bit nervous, and those are generally ones where it is difficult to bail. And more than half the time, I'm not necessarily nervous for my safety. I'm more nervous for the safety of my walls or my mirror or my equipment. Because there are definitely some lifts where bailing would, especially if we do them downstairs and not outside, where bailing would result in probably some kind of property damage. So that's a little bit nerve-wracking.
You're not prepared. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. And I think you've all seen the damage I've done to my ceiling tiles. And it's a good thing I have extra tiles sitting away from whenever I finally sell the house. But
those are the best of like, for one, that's a slight little Easter egg people missed about your video is I like when you throw the ammonia up into the ceiling tiles. Like, because too, when
a little extra showmanship goes a long way.
Like when we briefly ran earlier in the year, the bazooka lift challenge.
Yeah, I
you actually did cut your finger with, and you destroyed your ceiling. That, for some reason, an astounding amount of people would not do that. That was like the line they drew. They're like, "That's just too dangerous."
I would have preferred to do it outside because, like I said, that was one where I'm like, okay, if I really start like this could bash into something and break something. That was my concern on that one.
Yeah,
I guess
people were convinced, and I was like, "There's handles on it and everything. Like you can kind of maneuver it."
I remember feeling there's some that don't get my heart pumping. I remember doing like attempting a log Arthur lift. So like hopping up the back and then I don't know what the end game was, but and then I was just rolling off over the front of my head. And like that moment was kind of like, whoa, that's a heavy object kind of flying over your head. That's not a good position to be in. So I mean, there are some that definitely get my heart pumping a little bit, but there's not too many. I'm like, this is too dangerous because I can just use an appropriate load. And that's the nuance that people seem to miss. Like I always go back to okay, you think this is dangerous? Okay, what if you do it with the pool noodle? And they say, yes, that's probably safe. Okay, pool noodle that weighs 10 pounds. Okay, empty barbell. Okay, empty barbell with 10-pound bumpers. Okay, and you can keep working up and they're going to keep saying okay. And that kind of proves the point. Like there are loads that you accept this is totally safe with. And I hope you accept that with training and building musculature and strength. You can do higher loads safely. So you'll put those two ideas together and then almost any movement becomes reasonably safe, assuming you're using proper
precautions,
proper technique and appropriate load.
That's true. Because I think people oftentimes they like the black and white worldview. Mm-hmm. That's why Jeff Cavalier's the most popular person on.
No, that's just his biceps.
Thing.
Mesmerizing.
Yeah, his biceps. Yeah, because his body. The best though is when he was accused of using fake plates, and he decided to deadlift 465 or 435, and it was his back bent because he had shown videos before. He was like, your spine needs to stay perfectly neutral. He does like 5 plates with like no effort at all. And people, they're like, you can't do that. So he was like, yes, I can.
I totally can do less with more effort.
He did 4 plates in like a quarter or something, and just his back bends and he strains and he picks it up and just like slams it down and like looks at the camera like showed you, and everyone was like, what did you show us? Like you, but too, like the people don't realize like that. The amount of comments I saw under that were frustrated were people being like, I always thought I was a bad deadlifter because I couldn't maintain that perfect thing. And you have Jeff Cavalier saying, well, he never said it, but you assume 495, nominal effort, no spine bend.
Yeah. For what's worth, I feel like he's being cited less often than I used to see him. It might just be me slowly moving from different kind of communities to more enlightened sub-community than the general, online fiddlesphere. But I do see him coming up less often than I used to years ago. And I don't know. I guess he's being replaced now by, it's not so much Jeff Cavalier, I'm afraid of movement. It's kind of been replaced by all the
Squat University and those.
Yeah. I don't see them too much. It feels like the big ones now that kind of bugs me, and it's a bit more nuanced than the I hate Jeff Cavalier. That's easy. That is black and white to me. Like Jeff Cavalier, he just sucks. But it's all of these like evidence-based like TikTok personalities that are coming in the last couple of years. I guess also YouTube. And on one hand, most of them aren't totally wrong, and I don't have a problem with where they are citing things, and what they're producing is usually, well, for most of them is okay. It's just the takeaways that they're basically nearly layman followers are getting and then kind of working with and spouting out themselves are completely off track. But they feel very confident because they're getting this from this ostensibly super smart person that's citing scientific literature. So like, oh, I must be right. Like my conclusion I've drawn here is science support. It's like, no, what you've created is some weird half-informed conjecture that is most definitely not scientifically supported. But they're very confident, and that part kind of bugs me.
It's true, because it is like the best is our good friend Atlas had a great post recently of like everyone cites that they're like it's not optimal to train to failure and stuff. Like it's not good to train to failure, and he actually found the meta-analysis of it, and they had 10 subjects. That's not enough for a sample size. No. Like that's not like. It's like if we decided to do a study of like how effective searchers are for training, and the sample size is us and people who enjoy searchers. And we're like, these people had incredible results.
I support that study. That's the kind of study.
Yeah, it is a great study to just be like, look, we have deadliest lift, we have Atlas power shrug.
I have empirical anecdotes.
Yeah, Emmanuel Pescari, who for pound power, I know we've talked about him before on the show, and I tend to like sound like I'm obsessed with certain characters apparently or people. It's because I just kind of like gravitate on things. But his pound for pound strength, like when he tore his hamstrings doing the Atlas Stone attempt and everything, people, they were like, oh, he's just like down, like he's out. And he's like, no, I'm still doing OSG, which he won with recovering from an injury and still like training, because at the end of the day, most people don't realize that it's lack of movement that'll hurt you more. Of like, absolutely. My knee had the most pain the next day when I hadn't moved and like had slept on it. Like, whereas realistically, like it's hurt and stuff, and like stairs took a while to work up to, but like walking and stuff actually made it feel exponentially better.
Do we want to go to the injury recovery topic? Because I can definitely talk about that.
Oh, yeah, the injury recovery topic. Because we have that, and then there's going to be an important question to ask about.
I'm waiting for that.
Oh, there's a very important question that's going to come up in relation to Smash Mouth and the passing of their singer and the redemption of the All-Star incident. Because I don't know what the All-Star incident is, but for people who aren't aware, the singer Steve of Smash Mouth passed away yesterday, I'm pretty sure, or the 4th. So
yeah, I think yesterday. This is newscast like early this morning.
Yeah. So like, yeah, September 4th and everything. Very tragic. Saying All Star. And apparently Mark has an experience with that song that has been redeemed since. But there's the All Star instant is what I wanted to ask about.
That can be the end cap for the episode.
That'll be the end cap. It's just to hear about that. And we do need that. But it like you said, for your thing of like motion is lotion, kind of like movement of that recovery
so that's
process.
been my go-to for long before I got the injury. It's always been my experience with smaller injuries is like, no, resting does not work. Like I remember the first time I tweaked my back. Okay, ouch, it hurts. I can't use it now. It still hurts. So I spent months and months and months. This is like my first year lifting. And I think it took like 6 months to the point where I'm like, okay, this is not getting better. I'm just going to go lift anyways. And then who thought thunk it? It got better pretty quickly after I started getting back into deadlifting and stuff. And like since then, like similar injuries have gotten down to the point where I can maybe once every year or two, I'll still get the odd back snap, which I mean, I think it's more like glute than actual back, but it's the general area. It's all interconnected, all radiates out. It feel in my lower back is the point. And I got to the point where I can get that knocked out in 2 weeks, like the day after, like right back onto like Hatfield squats with the upright torso or frame deadlift with as much weight as I can manage. And like, I think the last time I hurt myself, I was pulling like 800 on the frame by the end of the week. And that felt fine. Like really focused on upright torso, extra focus on bracing. And by 2 weeks later, I'm basically back to full flexibility for range of motion, no problem. So applying as much as you can do without pain is, in most cases, I don't want to say every case because I think that's irresponsible to make it that black and white, but in most cases, for most lifting-related injuries, your best bet is to just get right back into the gym, start loading the movement. If you need to use less weight, go for it. If you need to use a reduced range of motion, go for it. If you need to use a variation or a machine or a different bar or a neutral grip or whatever it takes to get to the point where you're doing something that looks like the movement that hurts you, pain-free, do it. And then as you heal up and as things start hurting less and less, expand back out until you get back to where you started. And that process worked really well for me. It's worked really well for a lot of people I've told you. So I get messages very frequently like, hey, I hurt my back. Instead of, running to my bed and just sleeping on a hot pad and not lifting for 2 months, I got right back in the gym and I healed faster than I've ever healed from anything. And it just works. And I feel like it's counterintuitive because like you're saying, the most painful part of an injury is usually when you wake up first in the morning because what you've been doing, you've been immobile for 8 hours. So you become stiff and that is where the pain comes from. Your muscle is stiff. It's not happy. And once you start, flexing, heating up a little bit, letting the blood flow get in there, it starts to feel better. So why shouldn't you apply that kind of small observation to your overall recovery? And there's no reason you shouldn't. It works really well. So yeah, add heat, flex if you need to, stretch. Stretching is a good way if you can't actually load with weight, just to get the muscle moving, get the blood flowing. I guess another benefit is if you're lifting with that area, blood's flowing more, you're getting more of the healing factors you need to actually physically recover. And then even beyond like the physical healing, you need to mentally heal because there is a lot, especially if you're not experience, you haven't had a lot of injuries. There's a lot of gun shyness that comes with like your first, your second, your third injury, where you're afraid to injure yourself again and to go back doing the same movements that hurt you. So you need to get over that mental barrier as well as the physical barriers, and lifting more is a good way to fix that in addition to fixing your physical body.
Yeah.
I'll let you jump in.
Oh yeah. No, I was like, because I think it's a good point to make because oftentimes it's kind of like even mentally of like, kind of like, they say the less you go out of your like window of tolerance, the smaller it gets. And it's kind of like that with pain, actually. It's like if you think here's your window of tolerance and you get injured and you're like, I'm gonna start doing less and less, it's actually gonna be more stuff that's gonna hurt you in the long run. Because then you get to the point of like so many people I know just like stop lifting once something's hurt. Of like it's just like completely stop. Especially like the crazy thing is the amount of people I know who, when they get a back injury, they stop doing anything that involves spinal flexion, where actually
that's
the Roman
a good way to stay
chair,
hurt for a long time.
The GHD, yeah, like getting that actual flexion and like doing those things, the hyperextension, like that's a huge, really helpful exercise. And I think people oftentimes don't realize the value of that, of getting the fluids there and getting, because oftentimes your joints actually dry out the fastest and everything, of like, you have to keep everything lubricated and moving. And if you don't do that, like it's way harder to recover and everything. So I think it's a good message because so many people kind of preach the opposite or suddenly just like, yeah.
Yeah, and I tried to like show it as best I could. Like I remember when I got out of the ER, they're like, put your sling on and leave it there for, you want to be fully immobile for 2 weeks. I'm like, that does not sound right. And I get that they're going for the absolute safest possible thing because they're giving you the baseline information. They want to get you out the door so they can get the person with a stroke into your seat.
Right.
And if you're wearing a sling, if, for instance, some rugby bro just decides he wants to go right back and play it again next day, that's probably not a good idea. The sling prevents him from doing that. So I get where they're coming from. Like, I wore the sling for one day, maybe. And after that day, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to wear this. Besides, I wore a few more days when I was working out just so I wouldn't be tempted to use the arm. But, like, I was trying to move as much as I could. I could reach up to, like, maybe here, like, straight up, like, maybe. If I help myself up, and I was doing that from the second day because I wanted to keep that joint moving. So I figured if it gets stiffened up, if it locks out, I'm going to lose a lot of range of motion. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to have any kind of fluid flowing that it needs to heal. And I'm just going to be in a way worse position once everything heals up. It's going to heal all kind of crunched up, and it's not going to have the flexibility needed to do anything I want to do. So moving right away, I think within maybe 5 days, week tops, I was doing like very light dumbbell benching. I was doing very light, like tricep stuff, trying to kind of immobilize the joint the best I could. I think I was into super duper light overhead pressing within 2 weeks. I mean, I was doing all kinds of other stuff, not using the arm, even the day after. I think the literal day after, I didn't do anything heavy, but 48 hours after dislocating my shoulder, I decided I was going to do my powerlifting total with one arm. So I got my barbell, squat, bench, deadlift. I got like 1,150 pounds, something like that. And all the comments are like, you're going to hurt yourself again. It's like, okay, yes, I agree. This is not helping me heal, but I need to do this mentally because I need to prove to myself that even with this injury, even with my arm in a sling, I can still do shit. And that's, I think, super important because you cannot let yourself be defeated. Like, there's the mental aspect there. And you need to decide that I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to cope. I'm not going to mope. And not cope in the sense that it's kind of been bastardized in modern meme speak, but like the actual definition of cope in the dictionary, which is to productively assess a problem and work towards fixing it. You want to be cope. Coping is good. That's what you should be doing. You're injured. You should get back in the gym and do something because action is what heals you. Inaction is going to leave you where you are, which is broken, weak, and sad.
Yeah. Because
like,
it does happen.
The mental impact is so big. You want to like convince yourself that yes, you're going to get better. Yes, you can still do all these other things, and that goes a long way towards making sure you're in the right mental space you need to be to do the physical things that allow you to physically heal.
Yeah, because I think that's made a huge difference. Of like, because when I hurt my knee, like I just heard like a bad pop and everything, and it hurt. And then I decided to go up 10 kilos and just finish off whatever is going on there. If people see the video, the only thing I posted on Instagram was me successfully hitting 160. It was kind of a bit of a grind, and like I hurt my knee, so I added 10 kilos. And literally the pain was bad enough that I had to like get back down on my knees and then like try again. Don't keep going if you feel like a severe pain.
Yeah, I know at least that much.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, in the moment you're like, screw it, like I'm gonna do it. But
yeah, there's definitely the adrenaline, like the pain sometimes takes a second to catch up. Like when I dislocated my shoulder, it was like, okay, that was a big twinge. I'm like, maybe it's not that bad. And then like 5 minutes later, once the numbness had kind of settled down, it's like, okay, yeah, I love my brother. Can you drive me to urgent care?
Yeah, and the thing is, you also have to realize like urgent care doesn't always know either because like
they did an X-ray and they're like we can't put that back in. You have to go to the ER now.
Yeah, that's
I went to the ER. I sat in their waiting room like. I think it was 6 hours between when I dislocated to when they finally got to work back in because they needed to call in like 5 people because they needed to sedate me because my muscles were too tense and my big strong shoulder muscles wouldn't let them work the bone back into the joint. Yeah. So they had to shoot me with the painkillers. They had to shoot me up with something that was supposed to knock me out. It didn't knock me out, but it got me loosened up enough that they could work the shoulder joint back in. So big ordeal. I should just up against my rack
like they do in the movies. But they'll scare you though of like if you don't have like a experience with it. Like
I mean,
they're like it could.
I was concerned about a bad relocation because I figured there's a chance if you don't do it right, you're gonna. Some more stuff. I mean, don't need to do more damage. And I wasn't even totally sure that's what it was. Like in retrospect, it was pretty obviously dislocated. But I'm like, it could be something else. That's my arm hanging like down here and can't move.
I'm like, it was, but it's a mental thing though. Of like, it hurt really bad, and then I kind of didn't move it for a bit. Went to an orthopedic doctor on Friday. And everything. She was like, it's definitely your meniscus. She felt around. I felt the range of motion things that hurt real bad. She was like, well, physical therapy will help you out the most and everything. And it was helpful if Ted, the Kilo Physio, one of my friends on Instagram's been super helpful with that, of just like giving things to like work on that blood flow. And I actually showed up. I just kind of like did some of that like KT tape on my knee and was like super careful, but went to the gym on Friday and like did some overhead pressing, like incline bench, and just like getting back in there was super helpful, because it's easy to kind of like, human beings kind of like tend to just use inertia and momentum. Whatever like you're tending to do, you tend to like do more of. Like it can spiral of like, if you get cautious, you'll start to get more and more cautious. If I know I've like gone through different points of my life where I just like be socially anxious, so I'd stop going places and go to less and less places, which surprisingly enough does not help your social anxiety to stop going to even the grocery store, because then everything just seems kind of like too much. So you kind of have to like
you need
do
to pull
that
up that
same
band-aid and just
perspective.
make yourself do some stuff sometimes.
It's true, because it was like, and it was painful. That first week of Saturday was like super painful, and my wife was out of town, so I decided to be super responsible and got my hands tattooed that night to see if I, because a part of me thought that I was being a baby about my knee. I was like, maybe I just don't know what pain is anymore. And like, I went and I was like, told them, I was like, yeah, I want my hand tattooed. They were like, that's going to be super painful. And I was like, actually, I want both of them. I was like, okay. And it was super painful, but it was nice to have that spectrum. But it also showed me how much of like our conception of pain is based on like how we mentally perceive it. Because
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, like sleeping was weird on it. And like the next day, like I woke up and I was like, oh my God, my knee is fixed. Like I don't feel any pain in my knee. And then I tried to go up the stairs to get to the cat litter, and I was like, okay, no, my knee. I was like, I have to go sideways. But it was like, the more you gravitate on it, the more it's going to hurt and stuff. Kind of like in the midst of a tattoo. If you think about it hurting, it's going to start hurting more. Whereas if you just try to like compartmentalize and stuff, you can just kind of go through it. I think oftentimes like a lot of us are taught that like pain indicates you should stop going, and it does in a lot of instances, but like discomfort, it's okay to like
kind of work draw the line between discomfort and pain when you're assessing what you can and cannot do.
Because
if you don't have the experience to make that line, I guess be conservative about, but like I know what pain is, I know what discomfort is, like I know exactly how far for the most part I can push myself after an injury. And if anything with the shoulder, I've just multiple times where I was catching myself like, okay, I've been underdoing it, not overdoing it. Like I remember I was using a Viking press machine for a little bit, just because that's a good way to kind of get the pressing in. It's stable, it's controlled, it's a path. There's no stabilization necessary. And I forget the exact weights, but I was doing like, it's like a plate that's like halfway down thing. So you can put a lot of plates on because you got good leverage. So I had like 4.5 plates on the good shoulders, like banging out like push presses, like 20 reps. And I'm like, well, let's actually try and load and take this left arm to failure. And this was maybe 6 weeks after I dislocated it. So I had like the one play on there, just kind of really babying it. So I look up on there 25, it's still going. I look up in there 45, still going. You have to like 2.5 plates, and I knock out 20 reps of that, which is like 10 more reps than I've done with the 145 up to that point. I'm like, okay, then I think I need to be pushing this shoulder a little bit harder right now. I've been babying it too much. And it's just kind of those revelations. Like you're not going to find out how much your injured area can do until you do kind of push it a little bit. And if you're super cautious and you believe that it's weak and you believe that it's injured and you believe that it's not getting better, well, you're going to create your own destiny there.
That's true.
I don't want to tell people, just fucking go Ronnie Coleman and just get out of surgery, go right back air squats, lightweight, baby. That's probably too much. But there is a line between that and full bed rest that's where you should be.
Yeah. And I think that's like the hard thing, is like trying to find that line and stuff. But also you kind of just have to like trust yourself a little bit and everything. I always joke, because anytime I go to the doctor, it's like, I always tell Andy, I'm like, I'm going to get a second opinion. The first opinion is my opinion. Like that's what I'll see if it's validated or if I'm off base. Like, because sometimes you just have to be like, okay, this is like what I think might be happening. Because at the end of the day, like people, a lot of it, especially with soft tissue stuff, the first thing they had me do is an x-ray, and I'm like, that's not going to prove anything with soft tissue damage. Like you're not going to be able to see like what popped. I was like, you could feel something in there, but the x-ray is not going to like show anything.
It only sees the hard things.
It only sees the hard things. So you kind of like have to play it by ear. But I think oftentimes people tend to be so cautious as to like, and part of that, it's good that I think things have shifted a little bit the window of discussion as kind of like people will do a bit more, because there was for a long time this idea of like, this movement will hurt you, good mornings can hurt you, this movement's bad. And it's funny because when you'd ask people, they'd be like, well, why is it bad? They'd be like, well, if done improperly, it can be dangerous. And I was like, what does that not apply to? Almost anything. If you drive improperly, it can be dangerous. Anything's going to be. If you do it wrong, you might not get good results. Like that's not a lesson that's like one movement specific. But it was for the longest time of people that are like, don't do like behind the neck like lat pull downs. Don't do this. Don't do good mornings. Don't do the trap bar for whatever reason. And you're like, or
some people still believe that.
Yeah, Joel Seedman's thing of like, don't squat below 90 degrees is like, I guess the perfect range of motion for everything is that magic 90. And
yeah,
like,
I mean, you can watch all of their stuff and use that to kind of determine if he's right or wrong. Like the difference between me and him is, one, I'm doing it with a lot more weight, and two, I am very clear that the things I'm posting are not actually useful for anything.
That's true.
I'm not trying to tell you, like, you know why you're not big and strong? Because you're not doing trap bar signboard, because you're not doing the bridle deadlift to strengthen up your draws. You're not balancing a bar in your head and squatting with it. You need to be doing these important movements to get the true whatever strength. No.
Yeah.
I have to be very like, no, do not do these things for training. If you want them for fun, knock yourself out.
There's no real life application for them.
There is no application. Like, I am gaining nothing by doing these. These are not good movements for training. Please do not think I'm saying that.
Yeah, because it's essentially a highlight reel. It's like whenever people like another great deadlifter is like Jamal Browner, you realize that like when he has a deadlift session, he'll make a reel, multiple reels for the week of that one session. Like he's not only deadlifting 800 pounds all the time and stuff. Like your CNS, that's going to be a bit tough after a while to like every day work up past like 8 plates or whatever. And I think the main thing that was like surprising is for some reason people will go to that other extreme, because there is a portion of the internet that's like only odd lifting, like that's what really helps you, and you're like, realistically being dogmatic about anything is just not the best.
Yeah,
like realistically whatever's works best for you is what works best for you.
I think I've hurt some people's feelings where I'm like, no, I don't train with any odd lifts, like not even the normal odd lifts. Like I don't train Zerchers. I don't train any of these things. Like I'm training normal lifts. Like there are very few odd lifts that I will do that I actually consider part of training. That's like, I've been doing like barbell overhead walks. Like that makes sense for my shoulder stability. Like that seems like it's a good idea. But I'm not doing any of these other weird lists. It's just like a training thing. Like I guess my squats are a little bit atypical because I hate squatting a straight bar and I like box squats. So that's about as far as I get away from your very standard bro power lifter bodybuilder fare in my actual training. And some people here that are like I've ruined their Christmas or something. It's like, I'm sorry to break it to you. I don't have this weird training like method you can adopt and get like all these weird functional odd gains. Like that's not a thing. Just train normally and then do the odd stuff if you want. It's just a fun thing. It's a thing you can do with your training after you've done it. Like you train to be able to do these things. You don't do these things for your training.
Yeah, because I think it is just kind of like people like to be dogmatic. Like people like to say like, here's the one way to do this, and that like blows people's mind the most when people are just like, lift however it works for you. Of like realistically, for a lot of people, of like arching your back on a deadlift actually could cause more injury. Like most of my friends who have hurt their backs deadlifting have impeccable form, almost that Olympic style thing. And it's like the Olympic style thing, it makes sense for the explosiveness, but like it's not the same as doing a pull and stuff. Like you see Jamal Browner did, what was it, 430 kilos in Cardiff, the deadlift championship and everything, and it like went up fast and everything. People would like, whenever he does sumo, he's super neutral spine. But with conventional, people would be like, oh no, he's rounding his back. Like, what can he do? And it's like,
that's the proper technique for conventional.
Yeah, he's doing
he's reducing his lever arm. That's physics. That makes sense. It's good for him. It's good for his back. It's good for his strength. It's good for everything.
Yeah.
Like, why do you make yourself farther out from your pivot point?
People like to just like assume though. And I think it's this idea of like, that there's like one way to do things, whereas like everyone's recovery path is going to look different and stuff. Like I was actually able to deadlift on Saturday, which was great. But even then, like I've been focusing a lot more on grip, and it was nice to see almost immediate dividends from that. Of like, it's not like too impressive for a lot of people, but it was nice to do like 375 double overhand and like my grip held out and stuff, because it's very easy to like, grip goes so fast if you just stop training it and just use straps. It's easy to like
lose it.
Yeah, because like they're little muscles and stuff. So it was nice to like
you don't
think of
need
like grip.
You lose specific types of grip. Your general grip is fine. Go get some neutral handles and you'll find your sliver of the grip. It's just you'll lose your proficiency at a hooked grip or a mixed grip or a pinch grip or all the different flavors of grip. Like I think this is a complete tangent, but like people act like grip strength is a single monolithic thing, and it's just as variable. It's like saying, oh, you're good at lift. Like, why can't you squat as much as you deadlift? It's like it's because they're two different movements. Like a pinch grip is not like a hook grip or like a. There's a bunch of different types of grip strength. They're all individual things you need to train separately. And there's some overlap, but like I can't mix grip for shit anymore because I haven't trained mixed grip in forever. It feels weird, and like I can't get my one arm in the right place, but I can still neutral grip 1,000 pounds. Like that's no problem. It's a lot more I could do before, but I can't hook grip. I can never hook grip. I never learned that, but I cannot mix grip as much as I used to because I've lost that skill set, and that is what it is. It's a skill set, not a specific like strength thing.
Yeah,
that's just complete. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's a good one because it is that like variability and stuff. Like, because it is like it's interesting to realize that if I don't need my thumb, my grip's really, really good. But like trying to do the hub and everything, that's one of those humbling ones where you'll be like, oh, 25 pounds, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's
when
like
you add it to
different muscles, different tendons. It's not the same as grabbing a barbell or grabbing a neutral grip or hook gripper. They're all different skills. They're like different lifts. So you have to train them separately if you want to be good at them.
Yeah, like you can't just be like, I'm training grip.
I'm training
like what kind of grip? Because people all the times they'll be like farmers, and it's like farmers very much like this grip and everything, but like for a lot of people, your thumbs aren't doing as much work as you think.
You need to train grip with farmers. I feel like that's the kind of grip that you just get your natural. If you're strong, good neutral regular overhand grip like that. I feel like that level's pretty strictly with your general strength, independent of any specific training. Like I've barely done any specific grip training, but I can still handle the farmers just fine. I can handle a trap bar just fine without straps, a frame just fine without straps if I have to. But any kind of more specific grip work, I'm not very good at because I never practice it because it's kind of boring to me. Sorry, grip specialists.
That's all, Frank. You were going to say something?
No. Yeah.
I was like, you're just glad to be here.
I'm glad to be here. And I hook grip farmers. So, I mean,
I don't get that. You have to explain that one to me real quick.
I was like, I just got long enough fingers and I suck at farmers. So if I can use my thumb as a strap, I'm going to do it.
I always wondered about that because it's not the rotating bar. Like,
yeah, I feel like
Darren's convinced that like you need the bar to roll into it, like, or something. But you feel like there is benefit from hook grip farmers?
For me, myself, yeah.
I mean, I'm very firmly, if it works for you, wow, I'm not going to question it. In general, I don't see why that would be beneficial because the farmer's hand won't roll away from you. You don't need to lock it in. But if it gets you better results, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. That'd be a really dumb thing for me to say.
Yeah. And if you have big hands, which he does, my hands are very small. So it's like I can barely get enough on there that you do need the roll to like get enough for it to like work. But if you have big enough hands, it's like I've seen people do oh yeah, like there's that video doesn't have nearly enough views, but there's some guy who like snatches 225 with an axle. I'm like that's like fancy grip.
I've never learned the continental clean because my pressing is so bad I don't have to. I can double overhand no thumb axle clean at least 275. And that's more than I can axle press right now. So just the benefit of the big long hands kind of eliminates the 2-inch diameter of the axle a bit. So I still don't know how to continental because I don't really need to.
Yeah, because that's the main thing. People would always say like for me to like mix grip the axle. It's like I can do double overhand more than I could ever press. Like it's astounding to me that people will be like, if you can clean it, you can press it. I'm like, no. I can clean anything. I cannot press like very much. Like it's just like I think it's because it requires a lot more thinking than like my body's not very good at like doing multiple things at once. Like it's very much this like override of like bend down, pick up the weight, pull it up. Like that's not hard. But like when people are like, well, you have to have your chin back like this, elbows up, like get the right movement, put your hand under it just the right time, get it out there. I'm like, that's too many cues.
It's a lot in my opinion. It's a lot of technical thinking. Like 2 years ago when I was doing the first Monsters of Minnow I still missed the log there, but 3 times in a week for training, I'd done the comp weight at home just to make myself really confident. Like, I can totally do this. Like, bank up 3 easy singles. Like, I got this. I get there and it's just different log and I just fumble because there's such a narrow margin for error on the pressing stuff, especially when you're like push pressing and not just manhandling it up.
Yeah.
That if you I kind of flip the first rep and then I get a bit nervous, I get a bit flustered, and no, there was no chance I was going to redeem that one.
Yeah, and you do have to, like, especially with log, like, it takes so much skill.
And it gets a little bit forward, it gets a little bit ahead. No.
Yeah, I've like
the circus dumbbell. If it's not in the right trajectory, it's gone.
Circus dumbbell is one of those ones. It's like it's so technical that any misalignment is just like
some reps like, bam, easy. Next rep's like,
reset.
Yeah, because you can't correct it. Of like, it's one of those things that like overhead. Like the nice thing is like at least with deadlifts and stuff, you could kind of just like
muscle it,
do corrections and muscle it as
you're going. It self-corrects because the weight is generally below your attachment point. There's no balance there. It'll fall into neutral gravity by itself.
Yeah, whereas
that's
like
why I like deadlifts.
That whole press,
you try to correct halfway through and you're blowing your shoulder out.
That's true.
I'm not like, the way that's the good thing about being bad pressing. There's no chance I'm gonna hurt myself on a circus dumbbell.
That's exactly where I'm at. Like pressing is just like, and it's one of those things, especially overhead. Of like bench, it'll be one of those things that like overhead, it's like the weight will be like super heavy, and then if I have to bench it, it's like it's nothing.
Yeah, bench is a little bit easier. Like I'm not a great bench, but I can at least bench 400, which is okay for someone my size. It's not fantastic, but it's like, okay, you're kind of strong at that.
Yeah, pressing, it's impressive to see.
I think my best push press is still only 285, which is not at all good for someone my size. That's barely over body weight.
That's true. That is a tough one. But even like Frank was saying, Frank's like, who's real big into pressing, and it does change with you. Like if you lose weight, don't do it as much and stuff. Like,
oh man,
Frank, you were just doing log recently, right?
Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I've just recently lost like 60 pounds, and my press has suffered immensely. And I think it was just I was pressing more because I had more on me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why deadlift is the true lift. It doesn't get better when you get fatter.
It's true.
All that you're accomplished, so you can just back in some pounds and get your extra leverage or get your nice skin-on-skin contact in the squat or whatever, or reduce your range in the bench. But deadlift is the only honest lift. And its variations, of course.
It's true. Because it is, though. You don't think about it with pressing of like when you have more weight on you, you have a better shelf and stuff. Like it's like it's not nearly as draining, whereas like once you've lost weight, like
pushing against your lats more easily, you got nice padding there, like that body part to body part contact is huge in a lot of lifts. Yeah,
because you can hold the clean, like you can hold that rack position when you're larger. Like it does take less energy.
Yeah, this is me moving. I see like people with like big power belly squatting, like, well, they get to like brace themselves at the bottom. Like that's the hardest part of squats for me is that like single at the bottom, like I want to fall forward. But if I had a nice big belly pushed into my quads, like I'll brace me right there, and the weakest part, I'd be able to go right back up.
So
it's probably not that easy, but I like to tell myself it is.
That's true. That's the nice part. We can do the internet version of cope. It's just be like, that's why. Like I just don't press well because I just don't have mass.
I'm too aesthetic to squat.
too aesthetic to squat. Too smart to press. Like it's but it is like that is a tough one and everything. But I was like, it's weird to see like, and pressing overhead's always just crazy. Like the people who are really good at it and everything, because there is this certain level of strongman that they'll be like, your bench and your overhead should be the same weight. Like your strict press, like I've seen someone, what was it, Joey Satsme on YouTube a while back, did a day where he did like overhead and like worked up to like 415 or something or 455, and then does bench and hits like, struggles more on the bench to hit that kind of weight than he did on the overhead. And you're like, I just don't understand what's happening right now.
That's how people feel when they see me deadlifting. Like I understand, I see people are good at pressing. They're like built for it. I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that. I think people think that about me. It makes me feel better.
It's true. People do, because you are an inspirational character, just like somewhat like a nerdy, quiet guy. Struggles with pressing, still has amazing deadlift.
I have a fan question regarding deadlifts.
Oh yeah.
What is the highest deficit deadlift you believe is physically possible for you?
For me?
For you.
Okay. Assuming we're get full range. Once I want to do anything.
Full range.
Let's see. Also clarify, are we talking deficit from the floor or distance between me and the bar?
Yes.
Both.
Okay, we'll assume a standard 9-inch height for the bar.
Okay.
And we'll do full distance from the floor with that assumption that's at a 9-inch height.
How far up into your ceiling?
Not much farther. I think the highest I've gotten, I don't think I can reach the trap bar for the full 24 inches, at least on the low handles. I think I get to the point where I just cannot.
Can't do
I
it.
don't have the flexibility to get started. I feel like if I could get to the bar, I probably could lift it, but I just can't.
Yeah.
So around 20, maybe 21, 22 inches, I'd say for the trap bar, but I feel like I could squeak out a few more inches if it's a one-handed deal, because then it can rotate down a little bit and get a little bit better position. Obviously, it'd be less weight, but I don't know how I'd set that up because I'd have to pull like through whatever I'm standing on. So like the plate stacks wouldn't work because I'd be bumping into it where I'm trying to pick up. So I think if I had the right setup, like maybe one of those, the German Steinhilfen, where they have like a track and it's just attached like a ring or whatever, and there's like standing on, you're pulling up like the slot. Maybe if I had something like that and I could reach down, rotate to get that few extra, I think probably could get to the full 2 feet, maybe a little more than that, and then just loop my fingers or whatever's down there and pull up. Wouldn't be a super ton of weight, but I think I can manage at least that.
Yeah, because that's a cool lift.
A little over 2 feet, I'm going to go with is my answer for the highest steps that I should manage with my surprising lack of flexibility for what people think I could do.
I was going to say 2 feet deficit. I think you've got a little bit of flexibility you're not giving yourself credit for.
It's a weird kind of mobility, though, because it's the same as when people, they're like, I don't have the mobility for Zerchers. I'm like, Zerchers I can do, but like, ask me to like try to do something real technical that requires mobility. And it's like, no, I can't do a flat back Jefferson curl. I don't have like.
Most people have the same mobility and flexibility I do for the most part, unless they're very out of shape and movement. It's just they don't have the ability to leverage much strength from the far ends of what they can do. Like if I can get to something, I can leverage a lot of strength in that position. That's, I think, the difference between me and most people is that like for my full range of flexibility or mobility, whatever you want to call it, I have a pretty good level of strength. Whereas most people, they're going to tap off by the time they get to that far edge.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a part of it is like sometimes it's just like that stick-to-itiveness and stuff. Because you'll see some people as soon as like
it starts to go,
you're just like, yeah, you just got
like okay, so I went from not thinking I could reach the bar for a Zercher deadlift. Like I've tried a few times, I couldn't really get down. I'm like, okay, I don't have the flexibility for this. Then I did some like high deficit regular regular deadlifts, like conventional. And I'm like, well, if I can like reach that far down, like that's basically the same distance as the Zercher. Well, let's try it again. So I just really wedged myself into it. And I broke the world record that first day. So you really have to just believe.
550 pounds, is it?
That was just like I actually chipped it by 5 pounds with 530 the first day, and then I went back like 2 or 3 days later to do 550 for Zach Gellender's Eagle Olympics
back in the old days.
Back in the old days where I still had all the lights off and the flashing lights and just really bad quality videos.
Those were the best though. Back of like cleaning. At first, when I thought you were saying Zerchers, I thought you were gonna say you tried to Zercher the trap bar, and I was like, I can just imagine that weight just swinging into your shins as soon as the bottom clears the ground. Because I still remember you trying to clean the trap bar and just like hit yourself in the head, just like kind of like. Have to think.
Yeah, there was certainly a charm to that era, but I feel like that quality of video, like especially even like the non-upright frame, but like the side frame, it just wasn't suitable for wide reach. If I had kept showing videos like that, I think it would have just been very small. So because most people are just not going to look past that cinematography. We do have to point out that when he first joined us, he said he just does whatever, and it's like that just grows. So he does have technique, and he does think about filming. Yes, I have. By the time I was on here last time, I had started filming normally, and
that's true. You had the very first time, yeah.
So editing the video, editing the music in layer just was a little higher quality. I made some concessions towards making a better video, but that's most of the extent of it.
That's true. And you do the Canva custom thumbnails with the little, or like, I don't know if you use Canva.
I haven't stopped doing that. I just
the little things. Yeah.
I've stopped doing the thumbnails because I'm like, this is just a waste of time. No one's looking at these thumbnails.
That's true. Because that's
like, you still at least like put the weight like in letters so you can like read, and like now it's just like zooming out like what's it like for?
Action shot.
Yeah, action shot of the mid lift. I was like, okay, no, I'll use this as my thumbnail. Done. Lazy.
Because at
no
this
one's
point
looking
now,
down to my reels for the most part. All the realtors, they see things on their homepage, so no one's ever actually going back profile.
yeah, like everyone's just like scrolling through.
Yeah.
Now that everything's
just doing their doom scrolling, so it doesn't really matter what the thumbnail is.
But I was like, there was something I needed to ask, but I'm forgetting. Frank, did you have another question?
Yeah, I do have more fan questions.
Oh, let's see.
Let's bang him out rapid style.
I have another one from David Baden. What is the greatest deadlift variation, and why is it the Jefferson?
It's not to Jefferson. They're all equal.
They're all equal.
I can't pick a favorite. They're all deadlifts are wonderful.
I would agree with that. And what has maximal spinal hypertrophy done for the rest of your lifts and overall physical strength?
I don't think I have spinal hypertrophy. I'm pretty sure the spine doesn't get stronger. But I have a while. Like when I first started doing the lifts, I did talk a lot about how I think that they do have some benefit in that kind of adapting yourself to a wide range of movements that you're not used to kind of prepares you to adapt to movements you want to do quicker. Like you have a bit more kind of like generalized skill in the form of bodily awareness, if that makes sense. And also if you're, for instance, you fall out of your groove on like a traditional lift, you're more equipped to kind of catch yourself and work with that new position. That might have been me just kind of puffing my own farts and thinking that my dumb, silly things were actually helpful. There's probably a little bit of merit to it, but not a ton. I do think that having a ridiculously strong back and more importantly, being very confident in my back and just letting it take the loads it wants to do. And by back, I mean entire posterior chain. It's not really just lower back. The lower back by itself cannot move a lot of weight. Please stop saying it can. There's not very many big move muscles there. But I mean, it does let me squat more than I used to be able to because I turn my squats into deadlifts, whether or not that is actually good long term, or if I could potentially squat more by actually trying to learn to squat properly. I don't know, but all I know is I can squat a lot more if I just shoot my hips up and then just good morning it. So it's helped there. It helps a lot of strongman movements, honestly. There's not many strongman movements where it hurts to have a strong posterior chain, the ability to work from odd angles. That covers a lot of lifts. There's not many strongman lifts where I felt out of my element without training. Like my next competition is the circus dumbbell. Okay, not much experience there, but max deadlift, obviously that's easy one. Power stairs is just another kind of odd deadlift.
Yeah.
Farmer's carry, having the strong torso is helpful there. Yoke walk, same deal. Truck pull, I think it's the walking kind, not the pulling kind. If it was the pulling kind, it's in our case, where it's basically use your lower back to row it. Yeah. But even the upright ones, like having a strong torso that's able to brace itself in a variety of positions there's not many heavy lifts where that's bad, where you don't want that. Like that is the best thing I think you can learn for a lot of heavy lifts is how to properly brace your torso. Because if you have a strong torso, you can properly deliver force through it from your legs to the bar on your back or from wherever the bar is to wherever your primary movements are. If you have a loose, floppy torso, you're getting bad power drive. You're not going to get a very effective lift, and you're probably going to hurt yourself as your weak spine is not supported. Because your spine doesn't get stronger. It gets supported by all the crap around it. That's what gets stronger. That's what you have to use to protect your spine. People don't seem to get that you can do that. It seems kind of intuitive to me, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Because any movement you do is bound to get better. You just have to actually do that movement.
Yeah, and having the tools to develop that good movement, which you actually go and train it, is really good. Like you can brush up on your technical skill and lift in a few weeks even. You can't build the baseline strength and musculature needed to be really strong in those few weeks. So just take your time, build up all your strength and musculature however you want to, and then later on when you really want to learn that movement, spend a block really hammering it down. You're going to get pretty good at it.
That's true. I was like, what was it? I did have one question I thought of. Was out of all the celebrities, kind of strongman celebrities, people who have reacted to your lifts, like I know you've had like Brian Shaw, like
there's
Eddie
only
Hall,
only Brian Eddie so far.
Okay, I thought for some reason there was like someone else, but I think I'm blanking on that. Which one was better out of those?
Reactions? Eddie. I mean, Brian Shaw, he's very strong. He's very accomplished. He's up there for the contention of GOAT. He's done a lot for his sport, but he has the personality of wet cardboard. He cannot do a reaction video. Like I didn't even bother posting a clip for it because it's not a good reaction video. I'm sorry, Brian. Wow. I don't think you're ever going to listen to this, but if you are, I'm sorry, Brian.
No,
it's not your thing. Eddie has charisma. He's great at that. Like his reaction video was fun. Brian's was just him just sitting there like, okay, and now it's like he was narrating a nature documentary, but without like the Edinburgh charm.
Oh yeah, because he does that, and he'll be like, "Wow,
so now
what
he's
is
standing
this?"
on some plates and he's lifting the weight, and he's standing up with it, and his head is in the ceiling. I'm like, okay, are you doing a reaction video or are these closed captions?
How exciting!
That's okay. So
So
that
yeah,
does
Eddie 100%.
Yeah, because Eddie, like, well, he can have some ridiculous content and everything that could be somewhat cringe at times. Like, better to be cringe sometimes.
He's
but
got
put
charisma and
yourself out
personality.
there.
Eddie is he's a showman. He's good at that. That's definitely his thing. He's
That's
obviously
true.
very strong too, but I feel like he's like one of the biggest names because of that showmanship, not specifically his strength outside of obviously the first 500 kilogram deadlift.
It's true. Which I think that's the main thing that people keep asking who's going to hit 505 at this point. And I'm like, honestly, most of these guys like struggle with locking out more than like 455 at this point. Like, there's no one's gotten close to that strength of level that like Hafthor had before he retired.
Mm-hmm.
And just that haunting deadlift that for some reason he was like promised 520 to us internet folks, and then he just called it at 501, which was just like he should have gone for a fourth attempt. But that makes sense though. I wanted to ask about that reaction because I was like, Eddie's was funny, but I remember you didn't. There was like no real acknowledgement of like Brian Shaw.
I mean, I was like,
tears.
I could have made a reel of it, but there was like no fun because it wasn't fun to watch. It just wasn't good.
Up with it. Wow, that's great.
Pretty much, yeah.
So dry.
That's not his. He should do reaction videos. That's not his claim to fame.
That's true. Like, but everyone wants to like.
You should put more effort into putting on more
all of it.
strongman competitions and lifting things and whatnot. This
That's
reaction
true.
videos to someone else.
Except maybe stop putting in like the weird equipment thing. I know I sound like a broken record about it, but like leg press and chest press, I'm like.
Nah.
I was going to ask you, what do you think about those as far as strongman events?
Screw it, man. I mean, I would never call myself a strongman. I'm a dabbler, so I'm not super invested for it. But like, I'd like to see strongman return to being totally wacky and have a larger variety. Like, it's gone from kind of all kinds of nonsense 20, 30 years ago to more standardized, which, yeah, I guess it lets you have better comparison, but that's not the point. Strongman, each competition is its own self-contained entity, and that's what it is. It's supposed to be showy. It's supposed to be fun to watch. It's supposed to be who's the strongest on this day. You're not trying to compare your records between different facilities. I don't think that's the point of strongman. If you want heavy standardization where you can compete anyone against anyone else, that's what powerlifting is, and it's good at that. But powerlifting is also really, really boring. So let's not make strongman boring by trying to like mostly standardize these things. And like, yeah, you can have some silly rocks as weights, but you're still just doing an overhead press. So I'm all for bringing back different movements and really pushing the competitors to learn different things, and having something that's fun to watch, like big leg pressing a car. That's neat to watch. Screw it. Like, especially for people that aren't super aware of what's going on. Like, we all lift a lot. We can appreciate like the technical skill of a good circus dumbbell or like a good deadlift. We can see the differences there, but like moving the car, that's cool to anyone. That's cool to all the random spectators that don't know shit about lifting. And I think that's something that strongman has that the other lifting sports don't, and it should really capitalize on that more.
That actually is a good defense of that, because a part of it is that showman and stuff. Because I've been thinking about it recently after being critical of the last man standing stones where you go head to head, when in reality it is fun to just like watch someone push themselves to the absolute limit.
I had things I'd like to be able to do, like a head to get a beat, because that extra drive of seeing your competitor right there, that's cool.
Yeah, like when they do like the whatever car deadlifts and stuff, the head to head ones with that. And I think sometimes they put too much like into the general machinery of all the things. I do like, and we talked about it at like last episode, or the one where they did, it was the sandbag load that you just had to go into the ocean and put it on top of some barrels or something. And like
7 World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, that's awesome though. If they like all the sandbags are wet, so they're heavy, they're like,
yeah,
I've seen videos of that's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, and that's like an affordable event to put on.
It's really fun to watch.
Those ones were the best. Or when you had to do like the bar bending over the head, you had to get the two ends to touch. Or they had them
carrying kegs and they were all going at the same time, and one guy knocked the guy off a ramp. Like,
Cody Wilson, right?
Oh man,
like that's maybe it's some good reasons we moved away from that, but there was a certain charm to that the modern strongman doesn't have as much. It's
that's true, because
wackiness and fun.
That's the main thing, is
which appeals to me personally.
Yeah, so I can see it's a nice defense of that. Like, thing, because it was funny to like watch them when they had to like chop through the log as a team and everything, and you had them like jump on it trying to like break it,
the log,
and
everything. Some creativity, like the Strongman. Like you get rules by people messing up an event, and like, okay, we can't have people doing that again. Now that's a rule.
Because what was it? Another real fun event that I liked was a good change for a carry thing. Was when they had like the backpack straps on the refrigerators and had to run up the hill with the refrigerators. Like those were very affordable things to build. Like,
so you can have like two types of Strongmans. You can have like your more standardized, like extra strength. Like this is where we're going to test our strength in the common events. And then you can have meets where it's just like, okay, we're going to pick up this car and then we're going to like juggle these Atlas stones and we're going to do all these other wacky things.
See what happens.
You can separate them if you want. People can choose kind of what they want to specialize in.
Yeah, those.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having like. I mean, there are multiple big strong events. It's not like World's Strongest Man is pretty standardized and clean. If Brian Shaw's Classic wants to be the one where they have some difference in the events and some more excitement, let that be its thing. I think it's fine.
That's true. So that is a good defense of that and everything, because it is nice to just like see the goofiness
from the biased person, obviously.
That's true. From the biased person, but
from the ego lifter, dabbler, strongman.
That's true. I was like, that is another one of our shirts was the ego lifters welcome, because it is like after a while, I think part of, to tie back into an earlier conversation, part of what gets exhausting about the evidence-based people is that everything is so much like everything needs to have a form and a function.
Yeah,
you can't just do it just to do it.
That's my favorite comment. Like, why? It's like,
why not?
Why not? It's like this isn't good for this isn't good for hypertrophy. I know it's not. That's not why I'm doing it. Like, this isn't good for strength. I know. Like, this isn't a competition lift. I know. Why are you doing it? Because it was there.
It's true. Whenever people say the why, I always want to just like, I wish it would let you reply with just the reel of the Peaky Blinders clip where he's like, why? Because we fucking can. And if we can, we will.
I mean, look, think of like a little baby. They'll walk around. They're picking up whatever they can find. They're just picking up things just a wonder. They're like, oh, I want to see if I can move this. Where did we lose that wonder when we became adults? Why can't we be more like the innocent babies, just wanting to pick things up and squat around and just explore the world around them? We can be like that. A lot more weight and a lot more money to buy weird things.
I think one of the funniest videos of like a child doing like a strongman type thing is there's this video of this like tiny little girl. She just like goes and just like picks the handles up of two milk jugs that are the size of her body. And she just stands up with them and just like starts walking around, just like dragging these milk jugs. And like, she's just a tiny person, but it's like weird that where you're like, think of that of just like being like, yeah, I want to see if I could carry these milk jugs around the house and everything. And it had to be like almost her body weight combined.
That's how I do all my lifts. I sit in the gym, I'm looking around, I see my bars, I'm like,
I see some.
I wonder if I could do this. And most people, they get that intrusive thought and they're like, no, that's dumb. And they go back to bench pressing. I don't think it's dumb. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can try that.
For sure. Yeah.
Let's give it a whirl. And sometimes I find out, no, I cannot do that. But most of the time I find out I can.
You just have to like be, for one, the trap bar ones. Now that I think about the trap bar Zercher, you have to be careful with your shins, but like you do have trap bar bench day, which
I've done everything possible you can do with a trap bar at this point.
That's true. That one, I've
done everything I've done more than anyone else has ever done with the trap bar. There's still more things to do with the trap bar. I'll find.
That's true. You haven't done a Zercher from the edge and like find a way to like catch that swing on the hips.
That does sound like an uncomfortable one, yeah.
That's the one that like, it's the hips that.
It probably just any kind of bracing on the legs. I mean, that's what I do with like the trap bar squats. Like that, I can squat more with the trap bar than I can with any other bar because I can cheat because the bottom half of the trap bar hits my knees, and then it's supporting away a little bit. And I can drop my hips down to parallel, scoop back up, and it's basically a half squat.
That's true. That's scoop. That's
you gotta use the tools you got.
Scoop like that. That makes a big difference because people will like criticize it all you want, but now it's like the French lifters, they do that goofy low bar, but a lot of them do turn everything into a good morning and put up insane numbers.
If you can work through that weakest part of the movement effectively and get up to it, I mean, a good morning from a higher position, that is a stronger position because you're not doing the hardest part of the squat, especially if you're posterior chain dominant. So like any kind of squat where I can get any kind of bracing on the bottom, like my spider bar, I like that for squatting because there's no way to avoid my elbows hitting my knees a little bit, and that little extra stability at the bottom, that helps a lot. Granted, I'm partially just avoiding a weak point I have, which maybe that's not good, but I kind of just want to squat more, so I'm going to work with what I'm good at.
That's true.
Some people are quad dominant and they squat most with like a totally upright torso. I posterior chain dominant. Why can't I just get way down there?
That's true.
Plus, I have a big belly to cheat with.
That was the bizarre thing about the Shaw Classic. They didn't let the women do belt cleans, and I'm like, you have large guys who can just literally balance the bar there, just like hang out with it. They're like, no belt cleans. I was like, that's the most bizarre.
Whenever there are like any kind of rules in strongman, like other than like the most like the rules I accept are not having tacky on anything besides stones because it doesn't really help. But some idiot would put tacky on for like a deadlift and just completely gunk up the bar and you would never get it clean. I understand that rule. that's the only rule I really get because that rule's not like every event like no tacky. I'm like, why aren't they allowing tacky on sandbags? Because someone would do it if they didn't.
That's true. Because I like when people like
gunk up that sandbag.
I liked back in the day when you could do the log press and you could rest it on your head for a bit before you press, or I've seen people do that with the circus dumbbell, like tilt it kind of like.
I haven't seen that explicitly forbidden in any of my competitions so far. So I kind of thought about learning that because that seems like something I can be good at. My neck's strong. Yeah. My press is not.
It's true. Just get your neck under the circus dumbbell and just like do that.
Just bounce on my head and like, okay.
Yeah. I was like, but we
wear
do.
A beanie. Didn't say I can't wear a beanie or
that's
hard
true.
Hat. Didn't say I can't wear a hard hat.
You just have the hard hat and just wing it on there and just bounce.
Strongman wear enough equipment. What's a hard hat to add to the kit?
People are like, "What's he doing right now? What is that?" And you're like, "Is it against the rules? Did they say we can't have a hard hat on right now?"
Doesn't say the rules right here. There's one paragraph. It's all the rules.
That's true. Like that makes sense.
That is why I like what strongman like powerlifting as a book. Like strongman, like you get a paragraph.
And now you have bench depth that you have to worry about, where it's that bizarre thing, and they're like, "Well, the crease of your elbow has to go below the rear depth." Like
it's like just let them game the system. That's what you created with these rules. You created a rules set that is meant to be gamed. Stop discouraging gaming.
I also think people don't understand how much strength that still takes. I'm like, a lot of these people, even having to go in, we're still getting close to their.
So they barely move the bar. Well, then you grab the bar at their ends. Like I can grab the very edge of the bar for my benching. I'm not stronger like that because that's not easy to do.
It's actually like it feels terribly uncomfortable. Yeah. Like that's the weird thing is for me of like I actually like being like on the edge of the knurling or like never more than a thumb's width away because I honestly. That feels unpleasant to have your wrist like that at the end, and like that takes a weird kind of strength and everything.
Yeah, so these people like, oh, this is so easy. Like, oh, your sumo's too easy. Your super low range bench press is too easy. Your French back squat's too easy. It's like then you do it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of the rules. Just you do it. You show me your awesome French back squat, and they can't because they don't have the skills to do these things. They don't have the bodies that are adapted to it, and they've completely ignored that pack to really focus on that range of motion issue, which is not. Actually really relevant.
Yeah, because it isn't. It's always going to be a different thing for different
The distance of the bar path is not really a big determining factor most lifts. It's the overall range of motion, which in a lot of these things, there are trade-offs to be seen. Like they are cutting out certain range of motion, but they're doing other things.
Yeah, like we're still working things. Like you, and I think that's the big lesson that Bobby Thompson had a great video about it when Jimmy Kolb hit 1440 or whatever on the equipped bench. People, they were like, the equipment does all the work, all this stuff. And it's like, equipment does help a lot.
Supporting that. His wrists are holding better part of half a ton, like 3/4.
Yeah. Like to be at the top of your sport, you still have to like be strong.
His bones are bending in half. Like people don't understand that.
Frank and I got forced to do equip lifting for a while, and I stuck with it longer than I should have. But now it's like a thing that people are surprised that I hit 485 on the equipped multiply bench, like the same week that I hit 485 on deadlift. Because it is a certain, but it does take like it takes
skill set. You can't just throw on a suit and press a lot.
Yeah, like it takes such a mental thing because you actually have to keep it stable because it is one of those things that like Frank and I dealt with it tons of times of like if everything's holding you in a line, you have this like triangle of like the closer it gets, the more if anything goes wrong, it can like our friend Josh snapped his arm and stuff. Like things can go catastrophically wrong because you're so far overloaded. And I think people have this like weird, like it's almost become a meme of like, is it optimal? Does it have perfect range of motion? All this stuff. It's like after a while, you just have to be like, that's fucking cool. Like 1,400 pounds over your head is an insane thing to realize that. Just like
appreciate it for what it is. Stop
like Yeah, for
stop
a bench.
finding faults. You are choosing to finding faults in this wonderful thing. Like you are ruining your own enjoyment of the world around you.
Yeah,
because
you had
to be
to
like
get
an
a
annoying
special
little contrarian git.
That's true. You gotta just enjoy life.
Mhm.
And I realized
just take it at face value. It's a lot of weight. He's bench pressing it. Just enjoy it. It's cool.
True. Yeah, it is.
Man.
On the wrist, yeah. Ignore the fact that those wrists are holding that much weight. That's insane.
Yeah, and it is just
bones
like
are still holding all of that.
Yeah, it's an insane thing to do, and to realize people be like the equipment does all the work, and then it will do these bizarre things of like, as a light minor accessory, he'll do like 700 pounds for like sets of 12 on squats, just like he doesn't squat. Like that's not his thing. He doesn't care about it, and will still do these insane. You're like, that's crazy to be like, you don't even care about this lift, and you're still like doing this. But I think I realized like before we wind down too much, there was some promise of an all-star story. Possibly I wanted to make sure we didn't forget about this.
Okay, so I'll have to think of how to sanitize this for.
This is YouTube, so we don't need to like, as long as you're not.
Oh no, not terrible. Like for your game like shut down.
Oh yeah.
Thinking about just for my own little thing, and the fact that I'm sure my mom is watching it, so it gets released.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Okay, so the Smash Mouth story is my go-to self-deprecating anecdote that I've dealt with my regrets and my why did I do that cringe by just making a joke of it. So many years ago, it would have been 7 8 years ago, a little bit out of college. Long story short, without any of the gruesome details, I was on a date. She came back to my apartment. She had a very different idea of what was going to happen there than I did. And so I'm trying to de-escalate. My brain tells me the best way to do that is to just reach for my phone and change whatever music was on to All Star by Smash Mouth, because that just seemed like the best idea. Like that's a bit jarring. And it was very jarring. And she was very confused. And I was trying to explain why I did that. I didn't have a good answer, because there's no good answer why you would interrupt that kind of mood with All Star by Smash Mouth, the Shrek song. And yeah, obviously it didn't end very well. So for many years, I'm like, why did I do that? And I would tell this story. It's like, oh, what's your funny story? Maybe that's my go-to self-deprecating anecdote. So eventually you get over it, because now it's a funny story. It's just a funny joke I tell. And then years later, I was able to joke around it with another person. That similar situation. I put a song again, ended up much better. So
yeah, there was.
I got to reclaim it. I got to redeem myself right before the lead singer died. So I like to believe that he was holding on.
That's true.
Just for that, just because he knew out there someone was having a traumatic memory related to All Star. He really needed to reclaim that and make
it to Smash Mouth.
So I think that he was just waiting for. He's like, he saw that star twinkle. He's like, that shooting star has broken the mold, and then he passed on from this mortal coil.
I can see that, because it is, after a while, like that's a nice thing, is like almost everything in life you can't take it too seriously. Mm-hmm. Like it'll like eat at you, and you just kind of have to be like, you know what?
Yeah, even with lifting, you fail a lift, big deal. You mess up.
That's true.
You can't like get to you. Can't if you let your failed lifts in the back of your head, you're not going to succeed in them later.
Yeah,
yeah. You're like, sucks. I missed that. Oh well, that's the next one.
Yeah, because it is like one thing that I will say that equip lifting really helped me with was like, it was the first time in my life I did something that's pretty universally reviled on the internet and just didn't care. I'm like, I would just post it and just be like, you know what? I think it's fucking cool. I'm just gonna show this and everything.
You have to revel in that next. Yeah. That's the next stage. You revel in those people being angry at you doing what you're doing.
It's true. You have to like post yourself equipped benching. What was it? 485 in jorts that were I wear black ones, but they were the blue ones, and I had sweated so it looked like I had peed myself during it.
I feel like that probably occurs pretty often in equipped lifting. I can only imagine that pressure.
That's true. Actually,
sometimes you have to relieve that.
Frank did one time possibly make a mess in his briefs squatting.
You have to relive your trauma too.
It's true. We have to all like put these things out.
Bottom of like a 700 pound squat, and that was so few times I'd ever been in a squat suit. Yeah. Man, pressure on that thing, and you're like, when you're at the bottom, like everything just is kind of numb, and then you come up.
True.
I shit myself, like legit shit myself.
Yeah, and you're strapped into a Leviathan with all the tight strings, so it's not like an easy escape.
No, it's
like,
10 minutes to get out of the suit to be like, I did shit myself.
I'm
Yeah.
in there with you.
Because
At least I've never done that. See, the secret to that is if you don't want to shit yourself squatting, you have to super shit. So every set, bathroom, set, bathroom, set, bathroom.
That's
no risk. You don't think you have to go, you go anyways.
Yeah.
Equipped, you can't though, because once you're in
Oh,
there,
yeah,
like,
once you're in
it's
the
impossible. Especially if you have any kind of quad pump and everything. I still
Oh my God.
remember one of the highlights is Frank
It's
would
a little
just
release hatch.
Frank would panic at the bottom of every lift and then just complete it. And like the one time we were doing some lift and he worked up to 830 pounds on the squat, which is huge. He's wearing briefs, or not briefs. He was wearing a Leviathan Ultra Pro.
Mhm.
So he gets down there literally an inch from equipped parallel, or like right at that. And he gets down to the very bottom. It's like all the plates are out there and everything. And he's like, nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. And just stands up with the weight. Like no one like went to catch it or anything. He just like shook his
Only
head.
one
Literally,
option.
He's like, I can't, and just stands up with it. We were like, you literally spoke to us and then just stood up with 830 pounds. Like it's nothing. And we were all
That's
just
why
like,
I lift alone. There's no other option. You just got to stand up.
it's true. We couldn't figure out. Like we were just like, wait, what? He's like, I can't do it. We were like, wait. Like everyone was like, did you help him? Like,
I'm gonna put it back.
it's true. It's one of those things where you just have to like be like, you just like push it back up again. And I think that's like, you just have to have fun with it. Because equipped lifting, everyone hated it. Frank hated it enough that he left. I stayed on too long because I like weird things. I get like very obsessive about like small things and then just kind of like stick with it and everything.
I do miss equipped squatting.
Equipped squatting was fun.
That's all I miss.
That's true. You're getting a deadlift suit though, right? Mark, you said
I'm finally entering that role. I feel like it's time to add that to really see how much I can lift.
The metal jack.
If I'm going to be doing deadlift competitions, I might as well take the advantages that are offered by the rules. So I kind of want to see if that adds anything for my deadlifts, because I know it's kind of hit or miss with if you actually get anything out of the deadlift suit. And I figured, I'll go all the way to the 2-fly, which might not have been the best starting position. Like, I'm going to buy once, cry once. And if it doesn't work, then.
No, the metal jack's a hard one because I could never do it with straps. I had to just do mixed grip, and you just get your air at the top and just dive bomb and then just like.
Yeah, I mean, I can get my figure eights on pretty quickly, so I'm hoping that'll work out.
Yeah, no,
at least I can do like the downward dog and then shift back.
That's true. When people do that sumo stance and then like get their air shimmy back in and then just like,
yeah,
I'm excited.
I think it'll be a learning curve. We'll find out if it can help me, and if it can't, then I feel. I mean, I'm gonna win at least in the competition in October. Either way, there's no way I don't win deadlift there.
505 in future, Mark.
505.
I don't know. No, people are like, are you gonna be the one to break the deadlift? Like, no, I'm not gonna be the one to break the deadlift record. How do you think that I'm gonna be that person? I'm a very good deadlifter. I'm not that good deadlifter.
I think if you got a good peanut butter company to sponsor you for the eternal bulk of
I think if I grew 4 more inches and I went full send on the gear, maybe. But
that's true. That does make a big difference, and I think that's like you got to balance it. But
now, I'd like to hit 10 plates. That is my current lifelong goal. If I get that, we'll reevaluate from there.
That's true. Do you have a mammoth bar or anything like?
No, I've had one ordered since almost a year ago. But then Arsenal, who makes the mammoth bar, they got into some legal problems, and now they're not shipping anything out. So it's been sitting in limbo. And I don't really see a reason to cancel it because the alternative is the new Cerberus 10-foot deadlift bar, but they're not shipping it to the U.S. yet. So I'm just going to let it sit in limbo until I know some people who already have the Mammoth and they want to get the Kratos, and they're going to tell me which one is better. And then if the Kratos is better, I'll try and cancel my order with Arsenal and order the Kratos. And then I don't know. I mean, I'd like to have one really fun, mostly just because I want a 10-foot deadlift bar more than anything. Not because I need it as a training tool.
It's a fun lift to play with. Briefly, I got
I want to squat with it. I want to bench with it. I want to do all kinds of fun things with it.
Because the best thing is, and I did it too, it was real fun to do, is putting bumper plates on the end and just cleaning it, and you can bounce it and just bounce it out.
I won't need a tsunami bar then.
Yeah, like it's such a fun bar.
I see a lot of potential for other than the fact that it's going to be impossible to get both ends of my camera. It's going to be so zoomed out. It's going to be a little tiny me, and then
I was going to say you should get one of those ones that like all like the IRL streamers do of like the 360 degree. Like that weird wide panel.
That's just going to warp me even more though. I've realized recently, it's another tangent, that like to capture the full length of my deadlift bar in my basement, I have to zoom out my camera. So it's not times one, it's at like times 0.05. And I always wondered why I felt like my limbs looked so much smaller in my deadlift videos than anything else. It made me sad. Until if I started doing some stuff outside where I could actually move the camera back far enough and I could get it at one, like that zoom out, like it warps things. Like
because it does a fisheye.
Yeah, it does like a fisheye
thing where it's like
it shrinks my arms. It's stealing my gains.
That's true.
So now I try and like zoom as much as I can. Like I gotta protect my quads.
That's true. Those quads are like they're just crazy vascular these days. The jorts, for one, I'm glad you're lifting in jorts these days. Vascular apparel. They're like seeing Omar Yusuf and all the stuff he's done. Very impressive. Like it's weird to like see people like him on History Channel.
10% off with code Deadliest Lift.
It's true. Support this man. Also, buy our shirts.
Buy jorts.
These are one of the great ones. Yeah,
you're buying their shorts with Rascal jorts.
That's true. Yeah, shirts, jorts, World's Strongest Opinion style. Also, Mark, you have your Snap City merch. Frank,
I do have a Snap City.
Show the people.
If you want to support Snap City, this is like I said. I made these designs for fun. The guy who sells them, if you want to buy them from the site I have listed on my Google Drive, my bio, he's a small company, makes really cool shirts. Forgotten Lore, really cool guy, been super supportive, really awesome man. If you want to support him, awesome, buy those shirts. If you are not like in the US or you want to print them yourself, all the designs are available, have free. I don't get money either way, so just if you like them, buy them. Just for fun. They're my gift to the community. It's not a money making scheme. I try to make that very clear.
I know. It's like that's the one thing I was going to ask. Do you think you'll ever cross the Rubicon into Patreon territory like our friend did recently?
I don't know what I would offer.
That's true. You could offer your free programs. Let's be like,
I feel like if I want
like tutorials.
I don't have programs. I have like 2 programs. One of them is barely a program. There's things I wrote for myself that worked out well. Rip and Tear, and then Flesh and Metal. And Flesh and Metal is a program in the very loosest sense of the term.
Yeah,
or like a very vague percussion template. But no, like Rip and Tear, that works really well. I don't want to charge for it. Like I don't really believe in paid programming because the free programs work just as well. And like, I guess I could like paywall the things I write, but I don't want to. I want people to read them.
That's true.
So I don't know what I would offer to a Patreon.
You could have the outtakes of things. Just be the setup videos.
Like the only thing I could see doing, like of all those other kind of pay things that I don't know, I could like Twitch stream my workout sessions or something. I thought about that vaguely, but it also seems like I don't really want. That seems like that'll work.
Yeah, Twitch sometimes does. Well, I've had a few friends who do that kind of thing, but it's a lot more to think about. Suddenly, you have to remember that you're like being recorded. Then you suddenly have to think, how do I make this entertaining? When you're at a certain
I'm resting for 10 minutes on my phone, not very entertaining.
Just listening to Smash Mouth, just remembering.
Yeah, I guess maybe at some point I'll like compile some of the best articles I've written into like an ebook thing, and then put up a like pay what you want deal. Maybe, I don't know. That just seems like kind of a cash grab kind of deal, which I don't really want to do. I don't know. I don't really want to overly monetize anything. This is just me having fun as a hobby, and I have my day job. I don't need to try and make online fitness influencing a job because that's not I don't think that's a good career lateral.
I was like, I don't know.
I have a good job in nuclear pharmaceuticals. I feel like it's a bit of a downgrade to try and be an IG fitness influencer.
Right. That's true. I'm like, if you can just like casually slide into it, just steadily get enough of those things, sell enough.
If you want to buy the Rascal stuff, awesome. If you want to buy Bells of Steel or Titan stuff, use my link, awesome. If they want to support me, great. But I'm not going to like try and like bilk them. I want them to get something out of it that they were already going to get, and then just use my codes or whatever. I don't want to sell them something specifically because I don't think I have anything to offer that's really worth money.
That makes sense. Like overall, it was great having you on.
Oh yeah, we've gone way over time.
I was like, we have gone way over time. I did briefly, because you guys can see the screen, I did briefly want to show you all something that's crazy, is comparing this to the last time. It's crazy to see how much better your lighting's improved, my lighting's improved. Like, we've got the whole setup.
Yeah, that's my old work laptop, and I replied my old personal laptop by sticking a new hard drive in it recently, and it's a lot nicer. So
yeah, I was like, it's crazy seeing the difference it makes. I was like,
I was questioning the bald head, but I think ultimately it was the right move.
You think it was?
With the comparison, I approve. Like, you had the luscious locks, and you chose to shave them. much to the chagrin of many bald men.
Yeah, no,
but with the side comparison, I think I see it. It
was a lot to manage and everything, and also that episode was like, oh man, what did I briefly looking at it? There was that episode might have been one of the craziest things I've ever looked at. Of like this. Just appalling, not a good vibe. This was a weird, like when I had super washed out, so I've like improved things a little bit. I just needed to briefly flex and be like, you know what, I've improved the show a bit because I didn't understand like how to set everything up, so it was just this like wild Ted Kaczynski beard, a shaved head. So I'm glad I was like, because the main thing I tell people is like, for one, like all the hair stuff, it's all just like, it's not worthwhile. Just like, because it is short enough that you do notice it, and it's just kind of awkward to let it grow out. So at this point, I just have to do like the minimalist, like, yeah. And it does. Some people, they're like, man, that sucks. Like you had good hair and you just got rid of it. And I'm like,
cut my own hair. Very easy.
It's true. I actually do. And one of the things, like, I was not in the best mental space when I did that. And that was not, like, possibly the best move at the time and everything. But now that I've, like, it is nice to just every Saturday just, like, do a quick little buzz. And I'm like, I look the same every morning and stuff. Like, don't have to just, like, obsess over what it looks like. Days. Yeah, no bad hair days. So I was like, overall, it's been great having you on. Mm-hmm. Frank, do you have? So I'll let Frank do closing words, and then you do closing words, and then we're out.
Closing words?
Yeah. Anything you want to promote? You have your shows coming up and some other stuff.
I've got Sasquatch Strongman Showdown 2, November 18th, in Raise the Bar Fitness in Gerald, Texas. That's all I got.
Nice. Mark, do you got anything? Yeah, tell the people.
I will hopefully be competing at the end of October at Brooks Battle 2 in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. That's a charity strongman competition. So check it out if you want to help out. Only it's for good cause. And then other than that, obviously Deadlift Stuff Instagram page, also YouTube, and TikTok. Those are smaller, but mainly the Instagram. I think most people watching probably know me at this point, but
yeah, I'm like, yeah.
If you haven't already, I want to really hammer in the Snap City Google Drive, which is linked in my bio, or I guess it's now linked in my link tree. But that has all the designs, like the ones he's wearing. It has all of my articles, which at this point is over like 150,000 words. I think that most people don't realize that I have somewhat useful content, not just silly lists. There's been a lot of people that have said that my stuff I've written has helped them, so maybe there's something in there that'll help you too. So that's, I guess, the big thing I want to plug, because that's what people tend to overlook.
Yeah, it was great having you on. This was excellent. Frank, I'm glad you did well. This was a good little trial run and everything. Hopefully Darren feels better and everything. I know he's been struggling, but yeah, this was a great episode. Good talking to you both.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and follow us on Instagram for updates. We'll catch you next time on World's Strongest Opinions.